You read about it, right?
I'll show you. So,
Okay.
rocket engines use something called pressure. Have we heard of pressure before?
That's right.
Pressure also comes in balloons. So, we have a balloon here. Now, we know it has pressure because if I did that for too long, it would pop, right? And it wouldn't pop without pressure. So, pressure. Now, pressure has the word press in it. And that tells me that the air is pressing from the inside outwards. But do you know which side it's on? Is it on this side here? Is it pressing? Did it get bigger on this side here?
Come on.
It did. Right? It also got bigger here, and here, and here, and here. The whole thing got bigger, which tells us that there is pressure pressing on every single side of this balloon. Now, when I let go of this, what happens with the air? Any ideas?
Right?
It'll come out. Can it press on a hole that I've made? Do me a favor, ready? Take your arm there and press on nothing. Can you feel that? Do you feel anything at all?
No, right?
There's nothing to press on, so it doesn't press. So if it's pressing that way, but not pressing this way, it's going to go where? Ready? Give me a countdown. Big nasty countdown. 3, 2, 1, go! Oh! That's right. Now rockets don't use balloons, they use rocket engines, but it uses the same science. We use pressure and a hole. So there's pressure inside of here and a big old hole. Do you see those giant holes back there? All they have to do is put pressure inside the engine, and they do that with an explosion. They put in rocket fuel, and they put in liquid oxygen, and they combine, and they get ignited, and they blow up. Now that explosion is actually a very good thing. It's controlled, and they let it escape out the back, which pushes it forward. Does that make sense? Yes?
Yes.
All right, so we got that much. Now there's something special about this rocket, and I'm going to talk about that by starting with this rocket here. You know what this rocket is? It's a very important one. It's not the space shuttle. It is in the museum though. Who walked in around that area over there? Did you guys look behind you and see a giant green missile? That missile's called the Redstone missile.
Redstone.
Now NASA, back in 1961, took off the bomb from the missile, put on a crew module, and they called it the Redstone Rocket. This took Alan Shepard, the first American to space, up to space, on the Freedom 7 capsule.
Freedom 7.
Now what this one did is it went up, broke off the capsule, floated back down to Earth. How does that seem different from this rocket here? This is 1. This is 3, right? You know what those are called? So,
Module.
point to this for me. It's behind you. You see that?
Yeah, right?
You see it? Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, can you find this for me? I don't see it.
No, that's Canada.
What about this one?
Nope.
No, it's not there, right? Because they dropped it in the ocean. This is the only thing they actually got to space. And those are called rocket stages.
Jesus.
These
Interesting.
things weigh a lot. And you can't get all of that weight up into space. So they have to break off pieces because they're too heavy. Again, those are called stages. Now, do you see the stages on this rocket here? This is all one rocket, but it's put into 3 pieces. Make sense? This is too heavy when it runs out of fuel. So we use all of the fuel up in this stage, and then we have to drop it off. Now the question that I'm trying to teach you is, when do we drop it off? So I'm going to talk about the Apollo missions. For the Apollo missions, our goal is to get to orbit, and then break the orbit, go to the moon, get into a moon orbit, break the moon orbit, and come back to Earth. So there's 2 orbits there, and we're talking about the first orbit. Do we know what an orbit is, though? No? You guys? Explain orbit to me in simple terms.
So basically, when an object or person goes around a celestial object.
Exactly. So I'm going to explain that with some of you guys may have seen before, called a gravity well, and that uses fabric. Who's heard of the fabric of space? It's a very abstract concept. From Albert Einstein,
Yes.
very much went to the theory of relativity with that. We won't get that far into it. Fabric of space. Fabric. Do you see where I'm going? This is space.
Space.
Now, I didn't put a planet in this. There's no planets here. And it's perfectly flat. Almost. If I take a big old planet and I plop it into space, suddenly it's dipped down. I've now warped space. So, if I take my Saturn V rocket and I launch it from Cape Canaveral, and then I turn off my engines, where's it going to go?
Keep going forward. Inertia. Oh, yeah, it's going to be back. Yeah.
Going back down. Now, let's try launching from Australia. What's going to happen?
Come back.
All right, but don't satellites stay in space?
They do.
They do, right? So, what do? They launch to the side. They go up and then they go to
East.
the side. And that is our orbit. So if we go up and then go this way, and then we turn off the engine, now we're staying in space, right? Rockets stay in space by circling their planets. So everything you see up here, the space shuttle, these satellites, the space station, every single thing that stayed in space for more than a couple minutes had to go into an orbit. Otherwise, it's extremely inefficient. Does that make sense how rockets orbit now? Yeah? All right, perfect. So, we stay in an orbit. And that's our first checkpoint with this rocket. Now, an orbit's not too high up. We're going to say it's about 100 miles. Out of our 240,000 mile journey, do you think stage 1 gets us 100 miles up?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes. Hi.
Probably not.
No? What do you think? No?
Close to.
Back here? All right, we're saying no. We're saying the biggest stage, the most powerful stage, the most expensive stage does not get us 200 miles out of 240,000 miles. Sounds absurd, but you would be right. We actually dropped stage 1 off at only 33 miles. So
Carbon.
we've made it 33 miles up out of 240,000, and we drop it off. That sinks to the bottom of the ocean. This is the 1960s, so nobody cares to recover it, right? Now, we ignite stage 2. Does stage 2 get us high enough? No?
Puts
Yes.
us in orbit.
Does it get us fast enough to the side?
Shorter impulse.
You're right. We go high enough, we don't go fast enough.
Short impulse.
Now at this point, we've still gone pretty fast. So what do fast things do in the atmosphere? Any ideas? They burn. So do we ever see this stage again?
No.
No. If we went looking for it, it would not be there because it's gone. It's just burned up like a meteor. Stage 3, does this one get us to orbit?
Hopefully, yes.
I sure hope so. So, we make the orbit, and we're not quite out of fuel yet, but we've reached our checkpoint, right? So we turn off the engine, and we stay there for about an hour and a half. We're good to go. Make sure all the instruments are working well, everything's good. If something is not good, we can turn around, fire the engine, and go back to Earth. So at this point, we're good to go for now. Now, we fire the engine once more to shoot us where?
To
The moon.
To the moon.
And at that point, we've run out of fuel. So these big old clamshells break off, and inside of them, we have something called the Lunar Lander.
Lander.
Everything here flies off into space. So at this point,
The
we
command
have this
module.
that just broke out of the ship, and we have these things that are all gone. So, I'm quizzing you again, where's this one?
In the ocean.
Where's this one?
Not there.
Where's this one?
In space.
Space, right? Now we have only this stuff left. Out of this entire multi-billion-dollar rocket, we only have these few things left. This is not a very useful orientation because we would have to walk through an engine to get into this. So we break out, we
Come
turn
back.
around our spaceship, and we dock with the lunar module. Now we fly towards the moon. But at this point, we're going very fast. We're going extremely fast, and to orbit the moon,
Just slow
let's go a
down.
lot slower. So imagine that I had my planet in that gravity well, and I just chucked the marble at it. We'd go flying past it, right? If this was the moon, we'd go like that. It would not be very easy. So we have to slow down, right? So our engine is facing the moon, because engines produce thrust in the opposite direction they stick out. So we slow down, we orbit the moon, and now we're good to go. Checkpoint number 2, because if I fire my engine, does anything happen?
Yes.
No. So if I need to turn around, I can, right? Apollo 10 got to this point, and then
And
they turned
came back.
around. Nothing went wrong. That was their mission plan. They wanted to test their lander in orbit. So they went to orbit. We're good to go. Now at this point, there's 3 men in here. There was always 3 men in here, but now's where they become most important, right? So, does anybody know their names? I bet you know one of them. Who's the first man on the moon?
Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong. Who's the second man on the moon?
Buzz Aldrin.
Who's the third man that did not
Michael
go on the moon?
Collins.
Michael Collins, right? So, Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin crawl into this capsule here, and they leave Michael Collins in orbit. He stays there while they go to the moon. So they land on the moon. One small step for man,
One
giant
giant
leap
step.
for mankind. Buzz Aldrin follows him off. He was also there. They spend 23 hours on the moon. All right. Now this is the shortest Apollo mission,
Yeah.
but they were trying to prove that it would work. At this point, they launched their
Jettison.
ascent module. They leave 6 of these on the moon, not on one mission, but out of all 6 missions, 6 of these are still on the moon to this day, untouched because it is the moon. Flies up, meets with Michael Collins again. They tell him all about all of their wonderful adventures, and they say goodbye to their capsule. So at this point, where is this?
And the ocean.
In the ocean. Where is this?
It's burnt
Burned. Where's this?
in space.
Where's this?
On moon.
Where's this one? In space.
Yes.
More specifically, where is it?
In the lunar orbit, translunar orbit.
Lunar orbit, right? It's still circling the moon. So, we have this left. Now, there's 3 men inside of here, and there's enough fuel in this for one more burn. A burn is what they call space maneuvers. Space maneuvers take us from where our current trajectory is to a new one, wherever that may be. So where do we want our trajectory to be with our last burn?
Towards Earth.
To Earth, right? So we go around the moon, we fire the engine, and we fly back to Earth. At this point, we're out of fuel. If something went wrong, if we're not on the right trajectory, we're not making it home. We're either going to go too fast, burn up in the atmosphere, or we are going to shoot too far away from the Earth and never make it. So they better hope that they've made the right trajectory, right? Now they're flying towards Earth. There's one more important thing. They have to be flying this way towards the Earth. If they fly this way, they are not going to make it. Does anybody know why?
No heat shield.
Parachutes are on the top.
Yep.
Parachutes is one reason. There's a few more reasons.
Heat shield.
Heat shield, right? One more reason.
Aerodynamics.
allows it
To slow it down. To slow the vehicle down.
What do you say?
to design of the bottom part allows it to move here because
You're halfway there. The bottom does have to do with aerodynamics,
Drag.
but we actually want it to be not aerodynamic. So if you look at a space shuttle, or you look at the rockets over there, they all point upwards because we want to go fast. We do not want to be slowed down at all. But when we want to make it home, we flip it around because we want to be slowed down the maximum amount. It's like if you're running through a crowd of people and you go like this as opposed to this. You would go a lot slower like this, right? So we face our bottom like that. Now, we don't burn up in the atmosphere. We float down to Earth and we slow down and we deploy 3 parachutes. We've made it to the ocean. Flotation devices. The Navy picks us up, takes us back to America. Is our mission done with yet?
Nope.
Does anybody know what's next?
Quarantine.
Quarantine. Do you know how long they quarantine on Apollo 11?
14 days. No. It is about
21 days.
21
3
days. Yes.
weeks. So we've spent 8 days just leaping humanity forward. We went into orbit. We flew to the moon. We landed on the moon. Went back around the moon and flew back to Earth. That took 8 days. Now we're going to spend 3 weeks in a trailer. So, they don't want to kill the human race because they don't know if they just got a disease, a virus, a parasite, whatever alien sickness could be on the moon. They don't want to take any chances, so they stay in a trailer. At that point, they're good to go home. Their mission is now completed, and they had a total of 17 Apollo missions, 6 of which made it successfully to the moon. Only 7 of them were supposed to go to the moon, so it was a pretty successful program. Any questions for me?